In 1570, Elizabeth I was in a bind. She had been excommunicated by the Pope, and her country was shunned by the rest of Europe. To avoid ruin, England needed allies. The Queen sought help from a surprising source, the Islamic world. The Tudor period has supplied endless popular entertainments, from Kate Blanchett's Elizabeth movies to the television series The Tudors. But this story has rarely been told. Jerry Broughton explores the forgotten history of English-Muslim alliances in his new book, The Sultan and the Queen. Speaking from his home in Oxford, England, Broughton explains why Elizabeth believed Islam and Protestantism had more in common with each other than with Catholicism, and how this cultural exchange may have inspired Shakespeare's plays and turned the Queen's teeth black. Courtesy Penguin Random House a lot. They can teach us that there's a form of pragmatic exchange and toleration and accommodation which trumps ideology. One of the key stories in the book is the issue of trade and the way trade collides with religions. The reason Queen Elizabeth develops this relationship with the Islamic world is theology initially. She's establishing a Protestant state, and England has become a pariah in Catholic Europe. So she reaches out for alliances with the Islamic world. What flows from that is an exchange of trade and goods, regardless of sectarian and theological differences. Elizabeth is not reaching out to Sultan Murad III because she's a nice person and wants religious accord. She is doing it for hard-nosed political and commercial reasons. Elizabeth's alliance with Murad III was essential to her self-preservation, yet this story has largely been left out of Tudor history. Why do you think that is? In the last few years, there's been a parochial identification of the Tudors, reflected in the way they have featured in recent TV shows. Like the Tudors, it has become an index of Englishness, connected to whiteness and Christianity, but it never tells the wider story of what's going on internationally. I started working on 16th century maps, and what the maps were telling me was that there was an exchange between the Islamic and Christian worlds, which wasn't being told in the official histories. Look at Tudor portraits. It's all Orient pearls, silk from Iran, or cotton from the Ottoman territories. The English language changes too. Words suddenly enter, like sugar, candy, crimson, turban, and tulip, which have Arabic or Persian roots. They all come in with the trade with the Islamic world. Elizabeth did her best to convince Sultan Murad that Protestantism and Islam were two sides of the same coin, and that the true heresy was Catholicism. I'm confused. What she does very shrewdly when she starts to write to the Sultan in 1579 is say, "Look, you and I have many similarities in terms of our theology. We do not believe in idolatry, or that you should have intercession. I dies. A saint or a priest will get you closer to God. Protestantism says you should read the Bible, and then you will be in direct contact with God. Sunni Islam says the same. You have the Quran, the word of the Prophet. You do not need saints or icons." Elizabeth is doing this politically. What she's saying is, you're fighting Spanish Catholicism. I'm fighting Spanish Catholicism. What nobody mentions, of course, is Christ. Laughs. Islam believes Jesus is a prophet, but not the Son of God. So in all the correspondence, they step around this issue. They always talk about the fact that they both believe in Jesus, but not how they believe in Jesus. The first recorded Muslim woman to enter Britain was called Aura Sultana. She has an amazing story, doesn't she? She does. Another extraordinary figure, Anthony Jenkins, one of the earliest Englishmen to establish diplomatic and commercial connections with Persia, is on his way back to England, traveling up the Volga River in what we now call Greater Russia. In Astrakhan, he buys this woman, Aura Sultana. It's not clear whether this is a slave name or the name of the place she's come from, but he takes her back to England. At around this time, a similar figure is established as a lady-in-waiting in Elizabeth's court. If it's the same person, and I believe it is, she becomes a kind of fashion advisor to the Queen, telling Elizabeth how to wear certain kinds of shoes or materials. Her exotic background made her exactly the kind of person to whom Elizabeth could say, "Oh, you've just come back from Moscow. What are the latest catwalk fashions?" There's a tantalizing painting of an anonymous woman by Marcus Guraerts called The Persian Lady, which some people speculate is of this woman. She's dressed in a very opulent Oriental fashion. It could be Our Lady or a Sultana, a slave who ends up in Elizabeth's bedroom, dressing her. It's an amazing story. Among other goods, English merchants imported over 250 tons of Moroccan sugar into London every year. Is it true Elizabeth's love of sugar turned her teeth black? Yes. Laughs. We have accounts by European travellers who describe Elizabeth as a small woman with blackened teeth from eating so many sweetmeats and candies. The predominant importation of sugar at that time was from what we would now call Morocco, as a result of Elizabeth's Anglo-Islamic alliance with the Saadian dynasties. It's quite ironic. The Moroccans are fighting the Spanish while Moroccan sugar is destroying Elizabeth's teeth, and English armaments are helping the Moroccans kill other Christians. Laughs. Elizabeth liked anything sweet. Candied fruit was a big thing. Everything is just steeped in sugar. Today, ISIS forcibly converts non-believers. Elizabethan merchant Samson Rooley experienced a similar fate, didn't he? He did. The issue of conversion with somebody like him is fascinating. He's a merchant from Great Yarmouth, in Norfolk, who travels on an English commercial venture in 1577 to the eastern Mediterranean. Turkish pirates capture him. He is castrated, turned into a eunuch, and taken to Algiers. He converts, takes the name Hassan Aga, and becomes the chief eunuch and treasurer of the head of the Ottoman-controlled city of Algiers. The English write to him about 10 years later, about issues of trade. They say, "We believe you are probably still a Protestant. Would you like to come back?" Rowley replies, "No way. I have a palace in Algeria. It's nice weather here. Why would I want to go back to Great Yarmouth?" Laughs. You have many similar stories of people converting to Islam, or, in the language of the time, turning Turk. It's relevant to the current situation in the Middle East because, invariably, it's Christians and Protestants who are embracing Islam, not the other way around. There are accounts of people who willingly embrace Islam because, in contrast to the way in which we see that culture today, the Muslim world is seen as tolerant and embracing difference. Particularly, he's also using the language of Turks and Persians throughout his plays. One of the earliest plays he writes, which we usually date around 1592, is Titus Andronicus. The main agent of evil, the baddie, in that play is called Aaron. He is described as a blackamoor, which means he's from northwest Africa, from the Barbary states. He causes all the chaos, bloody rape, pillage, mutilation. Absolutely awful. People say, "Oh, that's the predominant view of the Muslim in this period."